recently in Libya is coming up. I wanted Paul Watson to join us via video Skype just briefly to give us a breakdown of an article I worked on with him this morning. Obama hit struggling Americans with energy rate hikes. This is a big deal dealing with Agenda 21. And then segue into Libya, another article he did, NATO hands terrorist who killed U.S. troops control of Libya. Al-Qaeda gets new home as rebels seize Tripoli. I mean, now that they've pretty much taken over and Gaddafi's scurrying around somewhere, now it's just going to be an endless civil war, which is exactly what they want. Paul Watson.
Well, that's right, Alex. And I mean, back in on July 8th, I wrote an article, and also I was on your show when Mike Adams was hosting it. And the headline of the article was, U.S. wants Gaddafi toppled by September. The United States and France have set a deadline, September 2nd, to topple Libyan leader Colonel Gaddafi. And basically, at that time, they were saying to him, look, if you don't step down now, we're going to launch a massive bombardment of NATO, and we're going to basically bomb you out of there. And that's exactly what happened on Saturday and Sunday. You had NATO jets, RAF fighters, bombarded Tripoli. And then the al-Qaeda rebels can now storm in and steal the 144 tons of gold and take over the country and basically turn it into an extremist backwater. Libya, of course, because Gaddafi had spent most of the oil money he'd reinvested it in the country. They had one of the highest living standards in the region. Now that's all going to be eviscerated. And I mean, that's why the middle class supported Gaddafi in the first place, because relatively, in comparison to other countries in North Africa and the Middle East, it's a good standard of living for those people in Libya, in Tripoli, in the major cities. So now that's all eviscerated. You've got Obama and Cameron, you know, grandstanding at the glorious victory as if they commanded the army themselves. And basically it's going to turn into another quagmire once those extremists get control. It's going to turn into another Iraq. And, of course, the irony is that the very terrorists who killed U.S. troops in Iraq and Afghanistan, the same al-Qaeda that was funded by MI5 in 1996 to assassinate Gaddafi, is now going to be firmly in control with globalist blessings in Libya.
Well, again, you're anti-America, anti-England, that you don't support al-Qaeda. Would you like to apologize for not supporting the glorious al-Qaeda?
Oh, I'm just still surprised that those people that rioted and looted in the UK a couple of weeks ago aren't the legitimate government, because I thought that's how we do business now. I mean, they were called protesters. Remember back in March, even as they seized military tanks and fighter jets, the media called them protesters for 3 weeks just to give the UN time enough to craft this resolution, which they instantly violated. The no-fly zone turned into a bombardment overnight, and then arming, training, funding the rebels, again violating their own resolution. And now we come to this Operation Mermaid Dawn endgame, and of course the establishment media is all joyous at these celebrations as if it's some organic uprising. There was a massive sustained bombardment on Saturday and Sunday night. Some, 1,300 people dead, 5,000 injured. And the media's treating it as if it's just some organic uprising.
No way. Now, those planes bombs they were dropping, killing people, that was peace.
Peace bombs from the peace laureate Barack Obama, who has more troops deployed than George W. Bush did at any time in his presidency.
But what's wrong with you, Paul? I mean, working with al-Qaeda and bombing and killing civilians is peace.
It's kinetic action, exactly.
Well, you're very evil. I mean, look, it's totally going to disintegrate into bedlam, which is order out of chaos. That's what they want. So now the rest of Africa will sink deeper into the murk. What about the fact that the White House responded to us in February, and now it's totally confirmed? They're saying they're going to shut down most of the power plants not owned by General Electric, who's been given the waivers. This article we've got out today is so important, Paul.
It's important because it's not just the fact that they're hitting Americans with massive power bill rises, right on the edge of a double-dip recession, which is exactly what's happening in the UK, double percentage point increases on your gas and electricity
bills. That's right. They made the
same
announcements. Your carbon taxes are set to double your prices.
Yeah, and it's not just hollowing out the American industry, it's cap and trade via the back door, because remember, Obama tried to get it passed in Congress, he failed, and now he's going to these power companies through the EPA and saying you have to get these controls in place. They can't do it, so they're just having to purchase carbon credits from the other power companies. The pollution is still going out there, but Al Gore, Obama, and the Rothschilds are still getting their carbon payments, so everything's okay.
Well, that's good. Al-Qaeda isn't victorious. That's pro-America. Only the insiders get to have power plants. The prices are going up. That's good. And so it's wonderful. Webster Griffin Tarpley, who was recently in Tripoli under the bombardment, reporting for Infowars.com in a moment. Some of his colleagues that he knows have been wounded in the humanitarian bloodbath that is known as Nobel Peace. We're going to be looking at that and reports of a Gaddafi counterattack, fake dead Gaddafi photos drifting around. This is quite the spectacle and the new model of how the UN will invade you. They will fund terrorists to attack. They will uprise. If you fight back in any way, you will be bombarded with kinetic love bombs. And if you're not for al-Qaeda, you're un-American. Now, I guess I'm un-American then, because it's admitted, and we have the quotes here of the rebel leaders, that they've killed Americans in Iraq and that they still hate America. Well, then why would our government be doing this? Because they don't like stable countries. They want to destabilize all of Africa even further. So that's coming up with Webster Tarpley. Watson, finishing up with your central article. I've seen the articles in England in the London Telegraph just a few weeks ago. Power prices set to double in the next 3 years. And so they can't get the carbon tax that's paid to the Rothschild/Rockefeller, Al Gore. I mean, they openly own it. Carbon exchanges, you go to them and pay them money. I'm burning coal. I'll pay you money, Al Gore. And he goes, good, my son. Your family is taken out of purgatory. I absolve you. Pay more money, and we will get you, the rest of your family, out of hell itself. Oh, thank you, Al Gore. Oh, great man, bear, pig. But now they've already had rolling blackouts, massive power increased cost. And now, in your article, you've got all these major power companies that aren't part of the insider group. You've got the Texas Power Commission, the Texas Public Utility Commission saying, get ready for huge blackouts and double the power prices. The Fort Worth Star-Telegram's reporting that, and this will be more of a blessing with General Electric, who's had a waiver since February, running around giggling and laughing in front of everyone, obviously increasing power output at their factories, at their generating systems. I mean, this is totally mafia. This is like saying you can only buy groceries from, you know, Obama's. Maybe they'll start a string of grocery stores. I guess they kind of have done that with NAFTA and GATT with Walmart. So finishing up, Paul Watson from England.
Well, precisely. I mean, GE gives Obama $500,000. They get the waiver. That's how it works. That's Chicago land for you.
But this is tens of billions of profit conservatively over the next few years for $500,000.
Well, precisely. I mean, it's over $100 billion just in the immediate cost that these power companies will have to pay. And as I said before, even if you believe that carbon dioxide and these other greenhouse gases that they're talking about are, you know, deadly killers, they're going to be emitted anyway. It's just the power companies are going to buy the carbon credits from Al Gore, the Rothschilds, and Obama, who is also invested in it, and they're going to pass the cost on to the consumers. That's why our bills are going up 20%.
But the Rothschilds have yachts and private jets that put out a special gas that counteracts the devil carbon dioxide. So you want to pray to them. Did you know that the Rothschild flatulence is actually the only gas humans live off of?
Well, precisely. And, you know, Ted Turner can have 5 kids, Rockefeller can have 6 kids, but overpopulation is a problem. We can't have any. The thing is, though, I mean, look at this. UK faces green agenda backlash as energy prices rise. For the moment, they're going up 20%. They'll go up more next year. But that's also the amount that they spend on so-called green energy. And this is the same in both countries. And it mainly goes on wind turbines, which are notoriously inefficient. In Northern Europe, when we get cold weather like we did last winter, you know, coldest winter in 100 years, they don't work. you have to get really powerful winds for them to work, and even then, they're so much more expensive to run. They always break, you know, birds are flying into them. You can't maintain them because they're out in these isolated locations. And all our money is being spent on this because they've got this commitment to generate 20% green energy.
I think it's wonderful.
The next 10 years.
I think it's totally reasonable that insiders get waivers from not having to buy health care on Obamacare, and that General Electric gets a waiver that they wrote. I mean, they wrote it to shut down their competition. I think that's fine. And I think al-Qaeda taking over Libya is a wonderful thing. And I just, again, I'm really ashamed that you're not for al-Qaeda, Paul.
Well, I guess that, you know, as long as we do pay our carbon credits, at least the space aliens won't attack, because that's what the NASA scientists told us last week. Space aliens are concerned about global warming. If we don't line the pockets of Al Gore, the first carbon billionaire, you know, E.T. might come and get us. So,
by the way, Jaron, actually, when I talked about this yesterday, did post the Guardian article. A NASA-funded scientist, and this is the London Guardian headline, came out and said, pay Al Gore the money or the aliens are going to kill us. I mean, Paul, next they're going to say Freddy Krueger's coming if you don't pay Man, Bear, Pig. And, of course, I joked about the flatulence of the Rothschilds. They are now in Europe, and it's starting in the U.S. Canada already passed it, the cow flatulence tax. And so they're saying that cow's flatulence is going to kill the earth, even though the earth's always been covered with herbivores, bovine creatures. I mean, you know, they wiped out the tens of millions of buffalo and replaced it with a animal that can breed with it, another type of domesticated cow. I mean, it's insane. They say aliens are going to get us. Cow flatulence is evil. Pay Rothschild more money. I mean, you could not make up a joke this disgusting and this sick. They're paying a sheep flatulence tax in Australia now. And they're openly, the New York Times had the headline 3 years ago, a tax on breathing. They're not playing games. And there's all these weird goody two-shoes running around who, like, get off on hating themselves and they want to pay a tax for breathing. These are mentally ill people, Paul.
Well, yeah, save the planet, kill yourself. But these people are in power. John Holdren's in control of the geoengineering. And then you've got this Plandopolis agenda, which is what the big oil companies and the British government put out a couple of years ago, where they say, if you want to drive a car, you're going to have to apply for permission from the government. We're going to have a global food council. You're going to get meat as a rare delicacy, maybe once a month.
And incidentally, they've got trendies posing as patriots, liberal filmmakers making movies about the same plastic cities we're all going to have to go live in.
Yeah, and it's a throwback to Maoist China. Even as recently as the 80s, people who lived in China, poor people, meat was a rare delicacy, once a month treat. And in this Plandopolis, slaveopolis, the people who resist are going to be thrown in these cry freedom ghettos where they're segregated off from the rest of society. That's not my terminology. That's what they call them in their own video promoting this agenda. So people need to realize that these people are in control. They're insane, and they're holding the reins of power.
Well, they're insane like a fox. Their low-level minions are mentally ill and just like a moth to flame enjoy the control freak authoritarianism and believe that they're going to be part of it because they've given themselves to it. You know, that's your average general loser. But on top, they're cold-blooded. They say, how do we sell slavery and make folks love it? We teach people how to help themselves, and then have a new green Nazism sold while they fly around in their private jets. Paul Watson will continue to track these articles as they unfold. The White House responded to us in February. Everybody needs to get this article out. Obama hit struggling Americans with energy rate hikes. Thank you so much, Paul Watson.
Thanks, Alex.
All right.